Hey, Mark Michael Lewis here, OptimalHumanValues.com. That was one of the best arguments on the pro-religion side against atheism I've ever heard. This guy knows his philosophy. And because it's so clear, I want to both applaud him and make sure what he said was clear, and then provide what I believe is a good answer to it, a philosophical answer to it. So basically what he said is, because atheism is built on a scientific rationalism or a philosophical materialism that says only matter's real, right? Only the stuff that actually exists is real, not some transcendent space or transcendent principle that makes it all possible, right? That it's reality itself, that it's material itself that determines what things are. That therefore you can't say that there's a right, that there's a truth that goes beyond this reality. Right? There's no transcendental authority that you can appeal to. And therefore you're left with relativism, because whatever thing that you say is going to be relative to whatever particular perspective you're coming from. And since there's no authority that you can call on, there's no transcendent reality that says this is right and that's wrong, there's only what we might call contingent truth. There's only what you happen to say, which is why at the end of it, that's how he starts it off, and then he ends it and says, look, you guys don't have truth. There's no transcendent realm where truth can exist. And so all there is what you happen to have said. And because of that, atheism leads to relativism, and it's only my particular opinion or the particular agreement of a group of people that determines what's right and wrong, and that's going to change through time. And therefore atheism equals relativism. And so all of the atheist arguments are actually appealing to a transcendentalism, which is essentially Christian in nature. Both historically, the language and ideas come from a Christian context, and come from this Christian idea that there is a transcendental God that actually gives value and provides the reality. It's the underlying and penetrating force that makes the material world what it is. There's a transcendent reality. Okay, so he wipes that off the table. Now, that is a damn good argument. That has some real philosophical force. If you actually understand what he's saying, he did a pretty good job of taking a rather complex idea and summarizing it down into its essence. I tried to make it a little bit simpler, cut to the chase, because he also said some silly things about Moses and such. And notice that the response that was given was about the silly things about Moses, because the philosophical argument is very difficult. So a way of responding to it is, you can say, oh, well, that's not true. We don't need a transcendental piece. We don't need to say that there's a transcendental truth. You say, oh, you don't? Well, upon what do you base that? Well, that's what I think. Okay, great. So now we're back to what you think versus, is there a truth beyond what you think? Oh, darn. You got me again, right? So the answer to that is, okay, well, let's just, I think you've oversimplified the atheist position. It's not necessarily just philosophical materialism. It's more complex than that, but let's just say that it is. I'll give you that. Atheism's philosophical materialism, there is no transcendence. Right? There's only this reality. Okay. Well, then doesn't that lead us to relativism? You say, well, theoretically it does, except the universe that we're in has a nature, right? And this particular universe, although there isn't any transcendental set of rules or standards that says that this universe has to be the way that it is the way that it is. And so while transcendentally we could say that there's some force that makes, that we can appeal to beyond the universe, and that would stop relativism, I'll say, well, look, you can have relativism. Science and philosophical materialism or atheism is always going to be relative to this universe, right? We're only going to talk about this universe. So it's not relative, it's just contextual. In this universe, there's a nature. And we're not going to talk about any other universes. I'll give you that, right? I don't need a transcendence to say that goes beyond this universe. Okay, so the first thing is, yes, you need a transcendence to fix something beyond this universe. But within this universe, because the universe has a nature, we can just say that everything we're going to say is going to be about this universe. We're not going to say anything about any other universe. And therefore, we aren't caught in that kind of relativistic trap. Okay. In the same way, we say, look, and we're going to talk about humans, right? We're humans. We live on Earth. We have a particular set of circumstances. Human beings have a particular set of desires and needs. If we eat poison, we die. If we don't have oxygen and water, we die. If we have lots of great nutrition and great relationships, we thrive. Okay, that's our nature. So not only does the universe have a nature, but human beings have a nature. And so the moral answer we're going to provide is only for human beings, and only in this universe. Right? So yes, you need a transcendence in order to avoid all relativism, but as long as we limit the answer we're going to provide to this universe and human beings, well, then that takes out the relativism, because now we're dealing in a specific context. We've gone beyond relativism to moral contextualism, which is only in this universe and only for human beings. Okay, so now that we've got that context, we don't need transcendence, we don't need God. All we need is the nature of human being, and that which leads to human beings thriving and human beings suffering. That's, you could say, the answer to this guy. You say, yes, I'll give you all of your points, and say that if we were trying to determine values for all universes and values for all beings other than human beings, then we would have a problem. But because we're looking for human beings in this reality, we don't have a problem. So what was your argument again? Right? We don't need transcendentalism for that. There is truth because we're in this reality and human beings have a nature. And we can be accurate. Our descriptions of that nature can be relatively accurate, and they get better and better and better. And just as we could say that there's an underlying truth, which is what the first guy was saying, there's an underlying truth that religion taps into in its religious scriptures and its religious descriptions. We could say that just as Moses said, "Thou shalt not kill," commandment from God, ooh, right? Pretty useful. Shall we never kill though? I mean, it's not a very good commandment, because do we never kill? Right? If someone's going to kill 10,000 people and we can kill them, right? Do we kill them? Oh, well, the Ten Commandments doesn't have much to say about that. You know, in that sense, it's similar to alchemy. You know, we originally thought, well, in science, there's earth, air, fire, water, and sometimes spirit. But, you know, we've got 5 elements or 4 elements. Well, that was an attempt to describe the nature of reality, just as "thou shalt not kill" is an attempt to describe a basic moral principle that happens for human beings in this universe, which is don't murder people, because murdering sucks. It leads to bad societies, and it destroys the human being, the human consciousness that makes all goodness and beauty possible. Right? Now, how do you describe that in more detail? Well, that's not it's not a trivial task. It takes time. It's certainly not something I'm going to do in 2 minutes. It can be done. I'm working to do that, and lots of other people are working in similar ways. But the point is that there's an underlying reality that we can speak about. How we speak about it is relatively accurate or relatively inaccurate because it has a nature, because there is a truth. You do not need transcendence to have truth. All you need is a context that is limited. And in this case, we're dealing with human beings in this universe. That's limited enough in order to get 99% of everything that we want from human morality in a way that's 1,000 times more effective than what's been taught by religions. So that's a better answer for those of you who want that answer.